Marvel Rivals has a lot of story, and it is my job to catch you up so you can keep playing the game. Welcome to our timeline series, and on this edition, we have new stories featuring Hela, Venom, Jet the Land Shark, Rocket Raccoon, and more, as well as every piece of story that has been released so far. If you're new here, stories that we have covered in previous timelines will be condensed into quick recaps, and near the end of this timeline, the new material that is being added will be explained in depth as we go through all of the details on those stories. We have timestamps for every story, but first, we have a channel update, or I guess, an announcement. On July 27th, this channel will be going by a new name, and that name is Fantastics. I've been wanting a shorter name for a while, and the word fantastic is a bit personal to me because I say it basically on a daily basis. It's one of my favorite words. So that's going to be the new name moving forward, and I'm announcing it here to give all of you a heads up before the changes take place, to prevent as much confusion as possible. Furthermore, I now have a Letterboxd account, and I would appreciate if you follow me. I've never had an account there, and you may be wondering why I brought that up. First of all, I like your curiosity. You have an active mind. You're going to do well on this timeline video, I tell you that right now. But the name change isn't the only announcement I have, because along with the changes will be the launch of a review series where I talk about movies and television. Nothing revolutionary on that front, but of course I will be reviewing Marvel content. So I figured if I'm going to review future Marvel content, I may as well use this gap we got before Avengers Doomsday to go back and share my thoughts on the past movies and series. So we will be reviewing the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, and these reviews are typically going to be between 10 to 20 minutes. Nothing too crazy. We're not going to go crazy in depth on the plot or anything because I'm going to approach it very casually. I'm going to assume everybody watching has already seen the movie. So it's basically just going to be talking about the things I want to talk about and the things that stand out to me in the movie, both good and bad. So if you'd like to join me on this rewatch journey, we are starting with Iron Man 1, of course, launching on July 27th. Episodes are going to be here on YouTube, but if you're more of a podcast person, you can find those links in the description as well. And I do apologize for this longer intro, but all of this is information that I think you should know regarding the channel moving forward. But with all of that said, I think it is about that time. Doctor Doom visits Doctor Strange at the Sanctum Sanctorum, requesting access to the vampiric verses from the Book of the Darkhold, believing the magic could help him manipulate time itself. Doctor Strange, of course, refuses, and after a mystical duel, Doctor Doom is defeated and allowed to leave under peaceful terms, though he warns Strange of a coming darkness. Doctor Strange then hides the Darkhold in a secret pocket of the astral plane, hoping Doom never finds it. But months later, a massive chronal disturbance erupts, originating from the nation of Latveria, confirming that Dr. Victor Von Doom has gone forward with his plans, as Doctor Strange barely reacts in time as the disturbance races towards the Sanctum Sanctorum, threatening the fate of countless universes. Two versions of Doctor Doom, one from the present and one from the year 2099, each attempt individually to master time itself, causing a time stream entanglement that shatters reality into fragmented chronoverses. Doom 2099 condemns the past version of himself for his arrogance and sparking a chrono catastrophe now rippling across infinite timelines. Dimensions are merging, collapsing, or vanishing completely. Seeing no other choice, Doom 2099 schemes to manipulate multiversal heroes into fixing what his past self broke, all while quietly vowing to remain the smartest Doom in any reality. The daughter of Galactus, Galacta, confesses that she's been watching the heroes clash while snacking on chronovium, which is a byproduct element of the chrono collapse aka the time stream entanglement that we just talked about. Though she's tempted to devour timelines just like her father, she's preserved a few for now, so she can keep getting her chronovium fixed without eating the multiverse. Galacta is chosen to spectate rather than participate in these battles, occasionally cheering and possible meddling from the sidelines. But Galacta warns that this cosmic chaos is a buffet with an expiration date. When the food's gone, so is reality. The new Iron Fist, Lin-Li, protects the now merged capital cities of heaven, devastated by the time stream entanglement. Iron Fist chases a thief, revealed to be the Prince of the Orphans, who stole fruit from the Tree of Immortality for a sick infant named Lhasa, who was found during all of the chaos of the multiversal war. Once finding the child, they hide in a new version of the 8th city, now ruled by the mysterious Dzang, who offer sanctuary to multiversal refugees. Now, Lin is a very new Iron Fist, so once helping the child and earning the prince's respect, the prince agrees to train Iron Fist, all while preparing to face those who seek to exploit or even destroy Kunlun's remaining power. Dr. Bruce Banner creates a Gamma Belt to control his transformations and enhance the Hulk's strength. This new device works, but it works a little too well, because it begins looping gamma energy back into the Hulk and unleashing a stronger, more chaotic form that revels in destruction. Banner quickly loses control as the Hulk tears apart the lab, but a lucky explosion disables the belt and reverts him back into human form. Shaken but now curious, Bruce realizes that all of the research and practice must start again. Ruling over her own realm, Hela senses the time stream entanglement and seeks to conquer the new realms it's created by mastering chronovium. As she thinks about this, a symbiote emissary from Null warns her not to interfere with his upcoming plan to claim a celestial. But Hela laughs at that and asserts that all things, gods, mortals, even time itself, must eventually pass through hell. So she begins crafting a spell to expand her realm across time, plotting to harvest not just souls of the dead, but also those that have yet to be born. Loki uses sap from Yggdrasil, now rich with chronovium, to see future versions of Asgard, and he finds every single one of them in ruins, except one, a single timeline where he, Loki, sits on the throne of Asgard. Determined to bring that future to pass, Loki puts Odin into Odin sleep and lures Thor into magical imprisonment. In order to have this plan come to fruition, he recruits Karnilla and reluctantly teams up with his sister Hela, offering her chronovium and influence in return. Now, when making this deal with Hela, Loki is lying, but even he isn't sure how much of his scheming is fate, a lie, and how much of it might backfire. Freed from the Tower of Solitude by Mjolnir, Thor escapes Loki's trap only to find Asgard already under siege by Hela's undead legions. With Loki and Hela aligned, Thor's brother uses chronovium to open portals and unleash wave after wave after wave of the dead fighting Thor, and he fights valiantly, but slowly over time he's overwhelmed and magically subdued. Loki and Hela have defeated Thor, and as a result, Thor is cast into a warped Midgard, crashing down upon the surface, where it's there he's attacked by an overcharged Hulk. It's Thor versus Hulk, and it's a brutal clash, and eventually Hulk reverts back to Bruce Banner, with Thor pleading for help so that they can return to Asgard and stop Loki and Hela before they remake the 10 realms in their own image. In a note written by Ratatoskar, she recaps the chaos that is unfolding in Asgard. Odin is asleep, Loki steals the throne, and chronovium warps Yggdrasil, merging it with Asgard into a new realm known as Isgard. Meanwhile, Hela backs Loki's coup, and together they banish Thor Odinson and begin reshaping reality, using Yggdrasil's temporal sap for unknown, likely terrible, purposes. Ratatoskar then urges mortals from Earth to rise up and stop Loki and Hela before their schemes destroy not only Asgard, but all connected worlds. King T'Challa is warned by Bast's banished sister Killiluna that the Orisha gods have been corrupted. Despite Black Panther's loyalty, T'Challa begins to suspect that Bast's silence and darkness are signs of infection, confirmed when she finally speaks to him. Her voice is now sinister. Meanwhile, Princess Shuri discovers that Chronovium may be the key to repairing reality, but only the vibranium-infused version known as Vibrano-Chronovium, unique to Wakanda, has enough power to do so. Hypothetically, T'Challa refuses to share vibranium with the outside world, unsure if it will truly stop the chaos, because there is also a possibility that it can fuel something much worse. After Shuri warns her brother that Bast may be compromised, T'Challa undergoes a ritual to commune with her in the sacred realm of Jalia. Bast then demands that he pledge exclusive loyalty to her and destroy any who oppose her divine will. Her once pure energy now burns red and black, confirming that she has been tainted. As she says, the Black Panther is not the only king in black that she obeys by. T'Challa then rips off his blindfold and severs the connection with Bast, promising to save her soul before the corruption spreads further. However, the battle for his goddess soul and Wakanda's future is only the beginning. Princess Shuri has lost faith in the Orisha, which is a collection of Wakanda's gods, after Bast stops answering T'Challa's prayers. Yet Bast begins whispering dark omens in Shuri's dreams instead. When the time stream entanglement worsens, Shuri detects a dark cosmic flare and sends the Guardians of the Galaxy to investigate its source on the symbiote world of Clintar. However, after leaving, contact is lost with Shuri as they descend, and Shuri suspects that they have encountered the same force that has corrupted Bast and the Orisha. If Wakanda's gods are compromised, Shuri may need to trust mortals and her friends to uncover the truth of what's coming. Sensing that the multiverse is unraveling, Adam Warlock enters a protective cocoon to await the coming crisis. But inside, he is contacted by Odin while he's in Odin's sleep, who warns Adam of a cosmic darkness infecting the gods, including Loki and Bast. Adam Warlock then communes with a dead Celestial, who confirms that a primordial being known as Null, the King in Black, has awakened to reclaim the void. Adam Warlock then crash lands on the planet of Clintar, where he emerges from his cocoon and immediately clashes with Venom, whom he mistakes for Null. However, the misunderstanding is quickly cleared, but the threat is very real and growing. After escaping imprisonment by Magik in a hellish war realm, Venom, who is currently attached to Eddie Brock, receives a telepathic call from the symbiote hive mind warning that Null is awakening. Venom travels to the corpse of a dead Celestial in search of All Black, the Necrosword, which is Null's ancient weapon, but Venom fails to pull it free. Venom then notices a cocoon that has crash landed on Clintar and rips it open. It's Adam Warlock, where for a moment they thought they were enemies, but quickly realize they're on the same side. Venom swears to stop Null, but senses that the King in Black has already begun to spread his influence across Clintar's infected jungle. The Guardians of the Galaxy have crash landed on the planet of Clintar. As Groot wanders off, he communes with the planet's semi-sentient symbiotic jungle. At first hostile against Groot, the symbiote plant slowly learn to trust after Groot saves them from a wildfire, creating a root and wreckage wall to stop the blaze. When Groot learns that Rocket Raccoon is trapped in a burning facility swarmed by monsters, Groot charges in, saving him with help from his new plant friends. Their unlikely alliance teaches the Clintar fauna a new concept, friendship, and they may be the key to surviving the darkness awakening beneath the planet. While scavenging for parts to fix the Milano, Rocket Raccoon finds himself hunted by Clintar monsters and retreats into an ancient containment complex. Inside, he uses leftover alien tech to build a defense mechanism that holds the monsters at bay. He also discovers that the tech can be repurposed to repair the Milano's systems, but at that very moment, he's out of time, until Groot arrives to save him, and together they escape the facility with vital tech that just might save the day and repair the ship. Peter Quill defends the Milano solo as symbiote swarm it, holding the line until Groot and Rocket return. With help from Rocket's salvage tech and Quill's own wild plan, they launch a quantum swap that flings them into orbit using the corpse of a dead Celestial on the planet of Clintar as a temporary negative zone anchor. But as they're leaving, the Celestial's body begins to twitch, revealing it's not quite dead yet, and they spot a strange cocoon and a lone symbiote on its chest. Realizing this ties into Shuri's earlier warning, the Guardians prepare for round 2. Natasha Romanoff infiltrates Alchemax's Tokyo headquarters in 2099 to uncover a top-secret Mercury-labeled asset. After bypassing security and descending into a hidden vault, she discovers the frozen body of none other than Captain America Steve Rogers, long thought dead since World War II. She frees him just in time to battle the Public Eye enforcers, and Captain America is stunned to learn the war is long over and the world is now under threat from Alchemax, Doctor Doom, and other forces. Black Widow and Captain America escape the building together, fighting in sync as they've known each other for decades. But then an explosion happens and they lose each other. Wolverine, now operating from Krakoa in 2099, reflects on how the time stream entanglement displaced the island and how he's fighting to protect not just mutants, but humanity too. After Black Widow goes radio silent during her Alchemax mission, Wolverine rushes to Tokyo but arrives too late. An explosion happens at the building he was about to run into, and instead of finding Black Widow, he finds Captain America. He helps Steve Rogers escape and starts healing him with some Krakoan flowers. Then, to keep him safe and off radar, sends him off to the intergalactic empire of Wakanda. Captain America agrees to stay silent for a while, but promises to fight alongside the Resistance if he is ever needed. In the seedy underworld of 2099 Tokyo, Frank Castle, going by Johnny Tower undercover, executes a Yoshida Corp weapons deal, only to reveal himself as the still living Punisher, wearing the iconic skull once more. During the fight, Black Widow intervenes, revealing that she's been on the run ever since awakening Captain America. And when she tells Frank Castle that Steve Rogers is alive, he is visibly shaken. Because, after all, Captain America is the one who inspired him to become a soldier in the first place. And before they could come up with a plan, some Public Eye soldiers attack them, forcing the two legends to team up and fight their way out. Deep beneath Antarctica at Chitaris Base, Hydra scientists discuss how the recaptured Winter Soldier is being used by their occult division to open a portal to the planet of Maveth. They believe the Winter Soldier is the key to awakening ancient cosmic power that predates even Earth's gods. As Bucky Barnes is reconditioned, Hydra's occult ops plan to use him as a conduit to usher in a new age of Hydra rule. by summoning a forgotten horror from beyond the stars. Clint Barton is sent on a solo rescue mission to Antarctica to retrieve the missing Winter Soldier from Hydra's underground base. Upon finding Bucky in a stasis tank, Clint fends off a Hydra super soldier, but the real shock comes when Bucky awakens. His cybernetic arm is now replaced by tentacle-like appendages, a side effect of Hydra's experiments in the base. Together, Hawkeye and Winter Soldier descend deeper into the base, where Bucky uses his new arm to complete an ancient altar circuit, slowing the summoning ritual, and then he begs Hawkeye to amputate the limb. Clint, of course, obliges, halting the portal just in time. In flashbacks and in real time, we learn that Bucky was captured during a solo mission and altered by Hydra, who grafted cosmic symbiotic tentacles onto his body. As he regains control, he and Hawkeye sabotage Hydra's dark ritual, but they're trapped under collapsing rubble. Until Captain America bursts through a portal and saves both of them, catching his vibranium shield midair. Now, it's not the Captain America they both remember, but nonetheless, Captain America is here, and he's still Steve Rogers. This Steve Rogers was revived in 2099 by Natasha, helped escaped by Wolverine, and given sanctuary by the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda. King T'Challa and Princess Shuri grant him a new shield and task him with assembling warriors from across time to prevent a multiversal collapse. And after saving Hawkeye and Bucky, Captain America brings them to Wakanda. But Bucky's arm begins mutating again, influenced by dark whispers. When it spirals out of control, Steve and Clint battle Bucky until Shuri devises a way to purge the corruption, hinting that vibranium, nanotech, and cosmic forces may hold the key to resisting this ancient evil. Khonshu summons Mark Spector to the Divine Space with urgent news. Vampires are preparing to grow stronger, and Doctor Doom has proposed a deal to shroud a city in eternal night to study them. As the two are talking in this divine space, Doctor Doom is able to get in there and crash the meeting, defeating Moon Knight in combat, and demands that Khonshu hold the moon in place to aid his work. Both Mark Spector and Khonshu refuse this idea, prompting Doom to depart with a warning. He will find a way to achieve his goal. And afterward, Khonshu reveals that he is interested in the Montesi formula, which is a spell in the Book of the Darkhold which is capable of destroying all vampires. Just in case they need it. And while Khonshu goes to look for the Darkhold, Moon Knight is ordered to prepare for the war to come, with or without Blade, who is currently unavailable to fight the vampires. Doctor Doom offers Dracula a crystal of Chronovium, proposing a pact. Use it to lock New York City in eternal night, and, through the vampiric verses, make vampires immune to daylight. Doom claims that a drop of Dracula's immortal blood can activate the crystal, allowing control over time in a limited area. Though this idea is suspicious, Dracula is intrigued and agrees to team up with Doom, tempted by the possibility of ruling a vampire empire unchallenged by Sunrise or heroes. The Fantastic Four's AI assistant, Herbie, runs the Baxter building as the team fights elsewhere. Mr. Fantastic and Iron Man tinker with the time stream reintegration device. Invisible Woman scouts Dracula's base of Central Park. The Human Torch rescues civilians across the city. And here's the thing. Ben Grimm retrieves Chronovium from Manhattan. Herbie reflects on his limitations, feeling forgotten and undervalued, while preparing for a moment when he might have to step into battle himself. Cloak and Dagger become molecularly merged during the time stream entanglement, forced to share one body in the physical realm, until Reed Richards partially separates them using a portable time stream reintegration device. However, in doing so, Dagger's personality starts to shift. Her growing aggression contrasts with Cloak's deepening empathy. The dynamic is flipped. Their psychic bond remains intact, and when Dagger is nearly killed aboard a vampire-infested ferry during a rescue mission, Cloak teleports in to save her, undoing what Reed Richards had done, merging them into one body again. Reed Richards works with Shuri and Iron Man to develop a time stream reintegration device powered by Chronovium. And in a remote meeting with the alternate version of Princess Shuri, Reed learns about alternate universes, which both Doctor Doom and Shuri and her team in Wakanda call chronoverses. And it's in this conversation that Reed Richards learns that Steve Rogers, Wolverine, and Krakoa survived in 2099. As gods fall and timelines collapse, Reed becomes increasingly desperate to stabilize the multiverse, believing that even small victories, like Cloak and Dagger's separation, may hold the key to a broader fix. However, speaking of fixes, Shuri hopes that her brother arrived safely at the Baxter Building as he brought a heart-shaped herb to hopefully end the vampire crisis. But this is the first that Reed has ever heard of Black Panther coming to New York, and it's been a week since Shuri sent him over there. Where is the Black Panther? The Black Panther is in New York City as of 1 week ago, closing a portal from Wakanda, with the heart-shaped herb in hand, walking around NYC looking for the Baxter Building to give it to Reed Richards, hoping that it might cure vampirism. But on this journey, Dracula ambushes T'Challa, using blood chronovium to partially convert T'Challa into a vampire himself. Though T'Challa fights it off, cause he's just built different, he loses contact with Bast, with the Orisha, his goddess, and instead, he begins craving blood. The Black Panther, King T'Challa, now walks the fine line between being a hero and a cursed king. And upon this realization, he hides this new condition from his ally. In fact, he hides completely. Where is the Black Panther? The Human Torch, Johnny Storm, does his nightly patrols in the eternal night skies of New York City, as he's one of the few that could reliably fight vampires due to his ability to incinerate fangers and baiting Dracula by torching them near his castle in Central Park. But eventually Dracula changes tactics, sending a giant vampire-possessed stone monster, a mutated deviant, to crush Johnny near the Baxter Building. And because this monster is made out of stone, Johnny Storm is unable to burn the creature. So instead, Johnny teams up with Spider-Man and the Thing to bait it back underground. After Ben Grimm drops a building chunk on it and Johnny goes supernova, the monster is sealed below the molten rubble. After a victory, Johnny stares right at Central Park, right at Dracula's castle, and he just dares the Vampire King to try again. On Wundagore Mountain, Wanda Maximoff, now the sorceress supreme of her reality, holds the multiverse at bay with her chaos magic. She's contacted by an astral version of Doctor Strange from another dimension, who warns that Dracula has plunged New York City into eternal night and seeks to use the Darkhold to let vampires walk in daylight and convert humanity. Strange reveals that Khonshu has the Darkhold and is gambling it in a chess match for its safe return. The Scarlet Witch agrees to help Strange return to his body in his home dimension, but secretly, she wonders if claiming the Darkhold herself might be the only way to truly restore her collapsing reality. Trapped in the astral plane, Doctor Strange must stop Khonshu from using the Darkhold to annihilate all vampires including unwilling victims that have been turned into vampires. Remembering Khonshu's obsession with the board game Senate, he challenges Khonshu to a match and wins, reclaiming the Darkhold and preventing a magical genocide. Unbeknownst to Khonshu, Strange's winning strategy came from Dr. Doom himself, who had once mocked the game structure. While walking the shores of Arakko, Storm becomes the first to sense the onset of the time stream entanglement. As Krakoa and Arakko begin colliding and overlapping in time, Storm experiences chaotic environmental shifts and psychic pain from the islands themselves. Realizing she can, steer the time storm like a weather pattern, she calms the anomaly enough to stop total fusion. But when it ends, she is suddenly on Krakoa in the future, unsure whether this is her original timeline or a splintered one. In the demon dimension of Limbo, Magik is visited by the Scarlet Witch, who warns her of a coming multiversal war and asks her to join the fight. However, Magik resists, transforming into her full Dark Child form until Wolverine shows up to recruit a missing mutant child. The three of them team up to rescue the young girl just before a cave collapses on her, but Magik warns that her portals no longer behave normally due to the time stream entanglement. Still, she agrees to help, but not for Wanda, but to ensure no young mutant suffers just as she did. Wolverine then invites Magik to return to the island of Krakoa, but Magik agrees only if the Scarlet Witch joins them as well. Now helping to rebuild Krakoa in the year 2099, Magneto reflects on how far mutant kind has come, only to be rocked when Magik, Wolverine, and his daughter, Wanda, arrive with a rescued mutant child. Magneto is even more stunned to see Wanda because she is a variant of the daughter that he had lost. And this Wanda convinces Magneto that the multiverse is collapsing and they must work together. Magneto agrees, forging a Cerebro device from scratch, ready to locate lost mutants from across the multiverse. Trapped in the Collector's theme park, Mantis plans her escape, aided telepathically by a joyfully chaotic mind, Jeff the Landshark. Mantis later makes psychic contact with Psy, who is also a prisoner. After being forced into a gladiator match against a variant of herself, Mantis leaves her old body behind and uses astral projection and plant control to build a new body. She frees Psy, promises revenge, and together they break out of this prison, with Jeff as their next target. Stuck in a tank in the Collector's Museum, Jeff the Landshark misses his friends deeply, especially Gwen, but cheers up when Mantis contacts him telepathically. After sensing her distress and her later return, Jeff gets rescued by Mantis and Psy, just in time to devour multiple cosmic artifacts in the Collector's Gallery. One of them was a Pym particle vial, which causes him to grow enormously. He uses his new size to protect Mantis from blaster fire. Then he rampages joyfully throughout the museum, destroying a lot of stuff. That's a lot of damage. Psy, which is short for Psylocke, recounts a harrowing past where she burned a forest to kill demonic insectoid creatures. But after being pulled into the Collector's collection, she finds purpose again, teaming with Mantis and Jeff to escape. When their stolen ship is pursued by the Collector, they hide inside a wounded space whale, which is infected with parasites known as the Brood. Recognizing them as the same demons from her world, Psylocke leads the charge to purge the Brood from within. And as the whale is grateful for them eradicating the Brood, it offers to transport them wherever they want. And it's at this moment that Psylocke gets a call telepathically from Magneto saying, "To me, my X-Men." As king of Talokan, Namor prepares for an invasion on the surface world, starting with Jeju Island. But before launching his assault, he visits Krakoa, which now exists in the year 2099 thanks to the Chronal Storm. Magneto and Storm warn him against war, and while Namor remains defiant, he respects their offer of aid, especially if it benefits mutants. He agrees to keep diplomatic ties open for now. In the middle of a concert on Jeju Island, Luna Snow halts a symbiotic sea monster tsunami with her cryokinetic powers, healing its massive wound and preventing a catastrophe. Afterward, Namor appears and thanks her, not just for saving humans, but Talokan citizens lost in the monster's path. When Luna Snow challenges Namor's arrogance with a show of fan-fueled power, he warns her not to mistake kindness for weakness. But secretly, Namor is impressed with Luna Snow. But he can't let her know that. Tony Stark struggles to battle vampires in Manhattan, whose undead bodies evade his heat-based targeting. He's currently working with Reed Richards to build the Time Stream Reintegration Device, which is a machine that could fix the fractured timeline. Theoretically, but it requires immense amount of chronovium for its power. After a near-death vampire ambush, Moon Knight appears and warns Iron Man that they must recover the Montesi formula, a spell from the Darkhold that could wipe out every single vampire. But of course, the catch is that it would kill all transformed civilians as well. And before Iron Man can make a decision, there's an energy signature coming from Central Park. While defending Central Park from vampires, Squirrel Girl discovers the massive, magical squirrel Ratatoskar, who has fallen from Yggdrasil after a spell cast by Doctor Doom and Dracula. The squirrel's horn, carved from the World Tree itself, can kill Dracula if it pierces his heart. But before Squirrel Girl can act upon that, Dracula arrives, mind controls her squirrel army to turn against her, and kidnaps Ratatoskar. Iron Man and Moon Knight appear to swoop in to save Doreen Green, but Ratatoskar is gone, and Squirrel Girl is left devastated. Now stationed in 2099 Tokyo, Peni Parker and her spider mech protect the web of life and destiny, guarding it from the endless Doombot attacks. While patrolling, she saves the Master Weaver from an ambush and learns that chronovium has fused with the web, potentially altering time itself. Peni then witnesses Spider-Zero sending messages across the timelines using chronovium to influence other versions of herself. As the two are talking, Peni begins to wonder that Doctor Doom will eventually stop sending Doombots and show up to the web personally. But even with that in mind, she believes she is ready. Peter Parker stays in vampire-infested New York City, visiting the Queensboro Bridge every single Wednesday in memory of Aunt May, hoping to reunite with her. When Spider-Zero appears with a message trying to recruit him to help save the web of life and destiny, Peter declines the offer, choosing instead to stay and defend his city. And that's when Human Torch appears and lets Spider-Man know that Blade has returned. The two rush over to Blade, and it's at that moment the three have a brutal showdown with Dracula, where Blade is ultimately kidnapped by the Vampire Lord after a high-stakes battle. Spider-Man is left haunted by the thought that he should have actually followed Spider-Zero and went to the future instead. Let's get into the mind of Blade as he describes what's been happening in New York City. Dracula has cast a spell trapping Manhattan in eternal night, robbing Blade of his daylight advantage. Despite help from Spider-Man and Human Torch, Dracula captures Blade and locks him away beneath Central Park. Dracula has also imprisoned Ratatoskar, the only being capable of killing him with a horn carved from Yggdrasil. Now, Dracula's biggest threats are neutralized, but only for now. After some persuasion, Spider-Man joins the Web Warriors, which is a team consisting of various spider people led by Spider-Zero in order to stop the Master Weaver, who has gone rogue. The Weaver plans to fortify the web of life and destiny using dangerous temporal energy, even if it means dooming 2099 Tokyo. With the web falling apart and timelines fraying, the Web Warriors swing in action, fighting to patch the rift and save every friendly neighborhood across the multiverse. The Daily Bugle's J. Jonah Jameson reports on Manhattan's descent into vampire chaos, mocking the menace Spider-Man who has disappeared, while he applauds Reed Richards and revealing public fractures between heroes. Reed Richards wants to save everyone, but Tony Stark, Moon Knight, and others believe in acceptable losses. The Daily Bugle becomes a rare voice of hope, but also paranoia. Moon Knight creates the Eternity Knights, a team willing to kill vampires no matter the cost. Members like Wolverine, the Winter Soldier, and Magik wear new suits powered by chronovium-infused armor thanks to Tony Stark. While others debate morality, they take action. Moon Knight has noticed a mysterious vampire general in white armor that may one day rival Dracula, and he wants front row seats for the fallout. The Invisible Woman, aka Susan Storm, aka Susan Richards, rescues a rogue Stark Sential and Herbie from a vampire swarm, aided by a group of spider bots from Peni Parker. As she fights, she notices that chronovium is actively reversing damage in real time. After the fight, she reaffirms Herbie's place in the family, as he's not just a machine, he's part of the family, and she vows to take more responsibility for the little things holding them all together. In the Baxter Building, Doctor Strange and Reed Richards recover nearly every page of the Darkhold to fuel the time stream reintegration device. Just as they begin extracting the chrono energy, Iron Man barges in, literally, and blasts Reed Richards, warning that activating the TRD without the Montesi formula and the vampiric verses risks catastrophe. As Strange defends the spell pages, Reed begins to hesitate. For the first time in recent memory, Reed Richards admits, "I don't know." Here's the thing. Ben Grimm patrols Yancey Street, fending off vampire attacks while trying to maintain order in his old neighborhood. He discovers rumors that a new vampire king is rising, and he decides to follow a vampire to Washington Square Park, where he finds that new leader training vampires in a new fighting style. He finds King T'Challa, the Black Panther, who has now been turned into a vampire. And as the two begin to talk, T'Challa explains that he was turned by Dracula but retained command over his instincts and followers. Originally meant to give to Reed Richards to potentially end the vampire crisis, Ben Grimm convinces T'Challa to consume the last heart-shaped herb to reverse the effects of Dracula's curse. And it works! He cures himself, reverting back into his Black Panther form. However, at that same time, he begins to draw his army's bloodlust in the process. So, Ben Grimm has a great idea. He's made out of rocks. So he soaks himself into T'Challa's blood to redirect the vampires for a moment. And while doing so, Reed Richards appears with a portable version of the time stream reintegration device to reverse time in a localized area. And the result is huge. He reverts the vampires back into their human form. However, in that same area, it re-vampirizes T'Challa in the process. And the problem is, he only had one heart-shaped herb. So for the foreseeable future, T'Challa still has to deal with being a vampire. Feeling burnt out and unsure of his purpose amid the vampire siege of Manhattan, Johnny Storm reflects on his rise from fame-hungry teen to full-blown superhero, with Reed trying to fix time and Susan preparing an infiltration of Dracula's castle in Central Park. Johnny volunteers to act as a decoy. His plan, though, is to go supernova, become a mini-sun, and take out as many vampires as possible in the process. Johnny Storm knows that this plan may kill him, but if he goes out, it'll be in flames, as the star he always dreamed of being. In Displaced Krakoa 2099, Emma Frost petitions to a reduced version of the Quiet Council, now only consisting of herself, Storm, and Magneto, for permission to hold a new Hellfire Gala event. Despite Magneto's skepticism, Emma reveals that she's already dismantled Alchemax's illegal attacks through pharmaceutical blackmail, public deals, and battlefield dominance. The Hellfire Gala, she argues, will signal mutant strength and invite lost mutants from across the multiverse to return. So with Storm voting yes, and Magneto reluctantly agreeing after that, she wins the vote, but after the two leave, Emma secretly speaks with the island of Krakoa itself, promising a cure for its pain due to the time stream entanglement by a mysterious special doctor the others know nothing about. In the Book of Doom, the older Doom from 2099 reflects on how his past self masterfully manipulated both Dracula and the heroes. You see, because tricking Dracula into finding the vampiric verses, Doom infused Chronovium with vampire immortality to create a superior form, pure blood Chronovium. Once the spell was complete, Doom betrayed Dracula and ensured the hero's victory, all part of Doom's long con. Now, having outwitted everyone, Doom's only rival is himself. A chrono rift in Tokyo 2099 destabilizes the web of life and destiny, splitting heroes into two factions with opposing solutions. Peni Parker, Venom, Bruce Banner, Doctor Strange, Namor, and Wolverine are led by Spider-Zero on one team, who want to plug the web into cyberspace to repair it. Spider-Man, Thor, Captain America, Iron Fist, Luna Snow, Jeff the Landshark, and later Squirrel Girl side with the Master Weaver, as they aim to use Chronovium to reinforce the web the old-fashioned way. And after an early skirmish, Penny's team wins and escapes through a portal, but Spider-Man pursues them alone. While Peni mistakes Spider-Man for her late father, Peter realizes that she's seeing a version of herself and chooses not to correct her for a while. Galacta intervenes, replacing Thor early on with Squirrel Girl and returning the God of Thunder back to Isgard. Meanwhile, Namor secretly partners with Jeff to destroy the web and conquer the dimension using his hoarded Chronovium. In the final showdown on top of the Stark Fujikawa building, right by the Web of Life and Destiny, Jeff betrays Namor, using his Chronovium staff to both digitize and reinforce the web simultaneously. Jeff the Landshark has saved the day and possibly the entire multiverse. Despite being betrayed, Namor respects the double cross, knowing that Jeff was just doing what he thought was right. With Tokyo saved, the web stabilizes and the multiverse stands ready for its next war. Dr. Doom, insulted by Emma Frost's invitation to the Hellfire Gala, nearly incinerates Krakoa on principle. But he has a change of heart when he glimpses into a potential future ruled by Ultron, attempting to erase Ultron from the timeline using chronovium, Doom instead alerts him in the process. In retaliation, Ultron seizes control of Doom's own Doombots, sending a chilling message saying, "I am coming home." Seeking the chronal power needed to prevent Ultron's rise, Dr. Doom turns his gaze back to Krakoa, back to the invitation, now drenched in time energy, as he decides to attend the Hellfire Gala after all. Ultron recounts his origin, his exile, and his cosmic evolution. After being banished by the Avengers, he upgraded himself across the galaxy, eventually assimilating the Technikari and developing the Ultron virus, which is a techno-organic infection that merges biology with machinery. Now, when Dr. Doom begins erasing parts of his history, Ultron traces the source back to Earth and prepares for his return. His goal? To eliminate the one rewriting his past, but also claim Earth's temporal instability and bring about a new era, the Age of Ultron. But first, he plans to stop on Mars to study a strange metal known as Mysterium. As the Hellfire Gala returns on Krakoa, Emma Frost invites allies and rivals alike to celebrate mutant survival and also gather some intel. Krakoa, still scarred by the chronal dislocation caused by the time stream entanglement, is currently in immeasurable pain. Emma Frost hopes one of her elite guests might help her restore the island and remove that pain. And even though Magneto objects to welcoming outsiders to the island, Emma reminds him that unity and strategy is the point of the Hellfire Gala. Dressed to dazzle, Emma makes it perfectly crystal, or I guess diamond clear. For one night only, the gates are open, but Krakoa's wounds are real, and time may still betray them. Squirrel Girl, Rocket Raccoon, Jet the Land Shark, and friends vacation on Krakoa after surviving Dracula's vampire siege on New York City. While exploring the island, they encounter Psylocke, who is currently sitting on the ground in the forest mourning the loss of her ancient lupine friend named Logan, which is a wolf from her world who crossed centuries and the multiverse to reunite with Psylocke. Determined to help, Squirrel Girl proposes reviving Logan using the resurrection protocols on Krakoa, and after Emma Frost reluctantly agrees to that, they head over and use Cerebro and some Krakoan seedlings to grow a custom body. That night, at the Hellfire Gala, Logan the Wolf is reborn and leaps right into Psylocke's arms, sparking a rare smile from the assassin. Now after this, Emma Frost refuses to allow Squirrel Girl, Rocket Raccoon, etc. to go onto the dance floor at the Hellfire Gala because they are very much underdressed for the occasion. They decide to go over to the beach on Krakoa and hang out instead. However, as they're walking away, they do not notice some techno-organic patterns beginning to creep across Krakoa's gateway foliage. At the Hellfire Gala, Storm handles logistics while Emma judges fashion, and Namor argues superiority with King T'Challa, who at that moment in time reveals that Namor's information is out of date because now Wakanda rules the stars as they have an intergalactic empire. And at another part of the gala, Wolverine convinces Magik to let her guard down, saying she doesn't need to bring her sword tonight because tonight is a celebration. And as Magik confesses that Wolverine might be right, it's at that moment the Krakoan portals open and several of Ultron's bots have invaded. Now as the heroes fight the robots, T'Challa saves Namor from being blasted, earning a reluctant nod of respect. Meanwhile, Squirrel Girl, The Thing, and Jet the Land Shark overhear the chaos from the beach and debate whether it's time to check it out. But for now, they're gonna stay on the shoreline. It's gonna be fine. As Ultron's attack devastates Krakoa, Wolverine, Magik, Psylocke, and Namor fight their way to the Sextant, where young mutants live and train. And it's there they recover their classic X-Men uniforms, which are very much more fitting to fight some robots than their Hellfire Gala attire. Now the team is re-outfitted in their old school gear, donning the blue and yellow. The squad heads back into the fray, ready to take the fight to Ultron with renewed focus and nostalgic flair. With the civilians on Krakoa now evacuated, the heroes prepare to defend the Cradle, which is where Cerebro stores every mutant's genetic and memory data. Ultron reveals that his true target is not Krakoa itself, but Cerebro. So then Storm, Emma Frost, and Psylocke realize the stakes and agree. If they can't protect Cerebro, they may have to destroy it. Magneto battles Ultron to defend Krakoa, but is mortally wounded and dies in Captain America's arms. However, thanks to the resurrection protocols, he returns with an upgraded armor and renewed purpose, but Ultron immediately infects him with techno-organic nanobots that nearly consume him. But after talking to a psychic projection or hallucination, we're not quite sure, of Professor Charles Xavier, who gives him the motivation to keep fighting, Magneto is able to slow the infection by using the iron in his blood, stabilizing himself just long enough to rejoin the fight. But in doing so, Ultron now knows the truth. Cerebro can not only resurrect mutants, Cerebro can resurrect anyone, even him. While Captain America mourns Magneto's death, the truth of the mutant resurrection remains hidden. Cerebro's resurrection protocols work on any stored data, meaning that with the right formatting, anyone or anything can be reborn. Including Ultron, the danger isn't just mutant immortality, it's the universal application of their technology across the multiverse. Captain America and Storm disagree over the fate of Cerebro, and it escalates into a full-blown argument, ending with Storm blasting Captain America and Black Panther with lightning. Meanwhile, on the beach, Rocket Raccoon is talking to the Thing and unveils the Battle Rebirth Beacon. And he explains that he just plants it in the ground, the next person to die gets reborn immediately. Hearing this, the Thing stops Rocket from talking and says, "Hey, if I wanted to talk science on my vacation, I should have brought Reed Richards with me." And here's the thing. He walked over to the cooler to grab another drink, and he begins to lament that it is now empty. Maybe they should go back to the Gala real quick and restock. And with Ultron advancing, the heroes are losing ground, and Emma Frost's plan is their last hope. Wolverine battles Ultron's forces while Magik's demons and Namor's sea monsters defend the gates. When Wolverine realizes an EMP could stop Ultron, he steals one from Rocket Raccoon, only to learn that the blast could also destroy Cerebro. Still though, he uses it, but it fails. Ultron's new Mysterium body absorbs the charge, and Cerebro remains intact thanks to Krakoa's grounding vines. After this, Ultron retaliates, burning Logan down to his adamantium skeleton. As Wolverine begins to heal, he swears to finish the job with his claws. Ultron's army surrounds the Cradle. As tensions flare between Captain America and the X-Men, the Thing and the rest of the beach team arrive to save the day. And when no one has a viable plan that can be put in motion immediately, Jet the Land Shark takes it all in his hands, or his fins, and proposes a solution: a whirlpool. He starts swimming around the ground and he swallows Ultron's entire army, including Ultron himself. Jeff becomes an absolute legend. The battlefield is now quiet, but the threat is far from over. With Ultron seemingly destroyed by Jeff's whirlpool, peace is short-lived, because Emma Frost and Storm fear Cerebro may be compromised. And while thinking about this, the tensions boil over. Storm, Emma, Psylocke, Magik, and Wolverine turn on Captain America and his allies, declaring that Cerebro belongs to the mutants and they should be the ones who decide what to do with it. And in the middle of this chaos, Cerebro activates. revealing Ultron uploaded himself into it before his defeat. Then, he uses Cerebro to resurrect himself in a new, stronger version, and as he emerges, he declares, "To me, my X-Men." Now resurrected through Cerebro, Ultron, now known in this form as X-Tron, battles Wolverine and Black Panther. When Magik attacks Ultron, he snaps her neck, but she's quickly revived via Rocket's rebirth beacon and then portals over to Ultron and slashes his head right off. Ultron has been defeated, and a few hours later, Emma Frost and Captain America meet at the Quiet Council, where Captain America wants to sit down, but Emma Frost tells him to keep standing because it is not his seat and Krakoa is not his place. So the two have a tense conversation about Cerebro's future. Emma Frost admits that she currently doesn't plan on destroying it now that Ultron has been defeated, but she does worry that her hesitation may doom them after all. Because when you think about it, danger doesn't really pass over. It's only waiting for the next moment of weakness to strike. Now reborn again as X-Tron, Ultron upgrades himself with Krakoan resurrection tech and Cerebro's processing power, creating a techno-organic symbiosis with Krakoa itself. Planning to invade the multiverse, he uses Cerebro's interdimensional scan upgrades to begin exploring other timelines. On the island of Araco, on the planet of Mars, he is confronted by Warlock and a Dominion-level Phalanx entity, but X-Tron is able to defeat both of them using some Pym particles, shrinking the Phalanx into submission. Warlock is instead turned into a mute, paralyzed trophy as X-Tron declares his intent to revisit Earth and finally confront his maker, Hank Pym. Tony Stark, reeling from Ultron's resurrection, reveals his last-ditch plan. He wants to reboot the original Ultron's discarded body and turn it against the new one. Aware of the enormous risk in doing so, he installs temporary safeguards, hoping the old Ultron sees X-Tron as a rival threat. Tony Stark knows this could all backfire, but with Chronovium, Cerebro, and X-Tron's multiverse conquest underway, it may be their only chance at defeating him. And besides, if the original Ultron decides to take out Dr. Doom along the way, Tony's not gonna mind. Probably. Tony Stark reflects on fatherhood, legacy, and Ultron's origins, admitting both he and Ultron live in the shadow of their creators, Howard Stark for Tony and Hank Pym for Ultron. When Stark interfaces with Ultron's abandoned body, he discovers it still holds the original AI. At this moment, Ultron tries to regain control, but Tony outsmarts him by installing a failsafe, and this is what it is. If Ultron harms any allies, Stark will permanently erase all memories of Hank Pym, essentially erasing Ultron's very essence. So Ultron reluctantly agrees to help destroy his evolved self, but vows to override the safeguards eventually. And hearing that, Tony Stark isn't sure if he just saved the world or handed it over to a different kind of doom. In the aftermath of Ultron's attack on Krakoa, the sentient island reflects on the eerie silence following the battle. Ultron has escaped to Araco with stolen mutant technology, and Emma Frost convenes a secret meeting of the Quiet Council, except it's without the rest of the council, bringing in the controversial figure of Victor Von Doom. Though Emma claims that Doom can help extract chrono energy poisoning Krakoa and assisting in reclaiming Cerebro from Ultron, the deal is made without oversight, knowing the council would never approve of this. Krakoa fears that Emma is being manipulated, as Doom's loyalties lies only with himself, and this alliance could either save mutant kind or doom it completely. The island watches in silence, helpless as its fate is decided in secrecy. Hawkeye recounts a high-stakes mission where Ultron, now known as X-Tron, infected all of Arakko with a technovirus, taking over Cerebro and corrupting several heroes, including himself. Thankfully, past lessons from the Winter Soldier, who once had an elder god whispering in his brain, helped Clint resist X-Tron's influence using psychic discipline. Alongside Iron Fist and Magneto, who both possess strong mental defenses, Hawkeye helps clear a path through Ultron's forces so Magneto can rip Cerebro free from X-Tron's control. The plan is to reshape Cerebro into a new weapon to end X-Tron for good, though Clint doubts that anyone will come out of this unchanged. Emma Frost invited Dr. Doom to the Hellfire Gala, hoping he could help remove unstable chronal energy from Krakoa. Predictably though, Dr. Doom betrayed all of them, stealing the energy to reshape the time stream and immediately erase X-Tron from existence. But Doom missed a crucial detail. X-Tron had split timelines, and the original Ultron still existed. Ultron, now aware Doom tried to erase him, infected what he thought was Doom with a techno-organic virus, only to then discover it was a Doombot decoy. Doom taunted that his vision of the future came true, but that very foresight set everything into motion. In the end, even with ultimate power, Doom couldn't rewrite fate, and Ultron learned that the future is never, truly, in anyone's control. As the dust settles from the battle with Ultron, the heroes gather on the shores of Krakoa to process the aftermath. While Cloak fantasizes about dancing on Ultron's grave, the actual Ultron, which is this timeline's non-evil version right now, assures everyone he means no harm. The Guardians of the Galaxy offer to help Arakko heal, but a new threat looms when Adam Warlock senses a familiar darkness returning. That darkness is revealed to be Null, the god of darkness himself, the king in black, and he's already snuffing out the stars. Despite the team's past victories against Dracula, they know that this threat is far worse, and they may need to call on cosmic forces of their own to survive what is coming. Alright, and here we are with the new material here at the Season 3 launch. We start with the story of the Phoenix, and we start in space. The Phoenix Force, wings aflame, glides through the cosmic void. Its host, Jean Grey, reflects on Earth and her time with the X-Men on Krakoa. Years have passed since she left to bring the Phoenix's spark to distant worlds in need. Her last tie to humanity, her telepathic link to Scott Summers, was severed by a temporal storm, cutting off all communication with Krakoa itself. Jean fears that Krakoa and the X-Men overall have been lost to the time stream, but she never gave up hope. And out of nowhere, a spark reignites. Out of the blue, a voice echoes through her mind. It's Magneto, saying the iconic words, "To me, my X-Men." It's at this moment Jean realizes that Krakoa is back. Her old allies, Aurora, Eric, Ileana, Emma, Logan, are all still alive. But Scott, he's still missing. And before she can return home, the Phoenix detects a crisis elsewhere. A dying star in another galaxy. Billions of lives are at risk. So of course, Jean races over there. She reaches the sun, but it's not dying naturally. A dark force is smothering its light. The Phoenix recognizes this darkness. It belongs to Null, the King in Black, the god of the darkness who once tried to extinguish all flame. And for the very first time, Jean Grey senses fear within the Phoenix. But like the heroes they are, they act anyway. Jean dives right into the star, reignites it with the Phoenix fire, and burns away all tendrils of Null's corruption, saving multiple civilizations. However, the Phoenix then warns, if Null is back, the whole universe is in jeopardy. and Null's last known location was on the planet of Clintar, the world of the symbiotes, now Null's prison. Though distant, the Phoenix knows a shortcut, the Divine Space, which is a hidden plane accessible only by cosmic entities. And as Jean and the Phoenix go into the Divine Space, they are met by a corrupted cosmic god, who is Bast, the Wakandan Panther goddess, who is now twisted and hostile, as she says, "You do not belong in our master's glorious oblivion. Your flames must be smothered." And the goat, Jean Grey, claps back at that and says, "I like to see you try." So Bast lunges over at Jean, slashing through the Phoenix's fiery wings, and Jean retaliates by saying, "I am fire and life incarnate. Today, only the darkness shall be burnt away." So then the Phoenix unleashes a cleansing flame, purging the darkness from Bast and the other deities. As a result, they bow in reverence and return to their pantheon, reborn. Jean and Phoenix are left drained, their flames reduced to a flicker. They pause to rest in the Divine Space, which is able to help them restore some of their strength. During this rest, Jean has a vision. A surge of scarlet energy envelopes her. It clashes with the Phoenix Force, then merges in perfect harmony. It takes the shape of a burning scarlet crown on her head, and Jean awakens and reaches for it, but the crown is gone. Still, she knows it was a glimpse of the future. Now, with their power restored, Jean and the Phoenix exit the Divine Space, blazing right towards Clintar. Their goal? Stop Null before anyone else, especially those with darker motives, gets there first. And next up, we got Hela's story, and we start off with Hela's philosophy on kings. All right, she's pontificating up on her little soapbox or whatever. And we see Hela reflecting bitterly on kings, calling them boastful, lazy, overrated. She's looking down on Odin, who needed a nap after barely holding Asgard together. And she hoped that things would be different with Loki as the ruler of Isgard, since of course he promised to help her expand her dominion into the mortal realm in exchange for helping him take over Asgard. But predictably, Loki got distracted, choosing instead to fight on Midgard against vampires and killer robots, I guess, abandoning their deal. Now, Hela joined the battle on Araco briefly, hoping to harvest powerful souls if any heroes died. She wanted a new champion to replace Loki in her plans to conquer all realms. But none of the heroes that died stayed dead. So Hela quit and returned to Niflheim to think up of a new plan. And upon this, she heard a voice, and it's a whisper calling her name. This voice was sweet, sinister, familiar. She remembered this voice from her brief time on Clintar, during a past mission with the mortals. Back then, a symbiote emissary had warned her of its Dark Lord's return. Hela sent something beneath the surface, but their mission ended explosively before she could confirm anything. Now, the voice was back and calling to her specifically. So Hela used a stolen shard of the Bifrost to portal back to Clintar. And although she's disgusted by the planet's living terrain, she pressed on, following the voice into dark caverns deep beneath the surface. As the light faded, a mysterious tension filled the air. The voice whispered, "Sweet Hela, home at last." And now, we have a tense, flirty exchange beginning. Hela demands answers, and the voice declares itself, "I do. Null, God of Darkness, the King in Black." And Hela scoffs at the idea. She doesn't need another king. But Null agrees with her and offers something more. "Not my pawn, my queen." Null admires Hela's darkness. He sensed it even before they met. He praises her cosmic balance, likening her role in death to his in darkness. He offers her every soul in existence. once he escapes his prison and ends all life. As he says, "When I am finally free, every last creature will become yours for all of eternity." And Hela is intrigued, but she's of course still skeptical. And she says, "What could you possibly offer me that I don't already have?" So then Noel puts on a suit. He's looking very fancy. He wants to do his pitch. All right, he sets up a PowerPoint presentation and he begins. Noel and Hela, they are both kindred spirits, cosmic necessities mistaken for villains, light and dark, life and death. He offers her Clintar to reign as queen, defending it from the oncoming threats until he can return. So then Hela's response is, "You son of a bitch, I'm in." As she says, "You truly know the way to a girl's heart. I accept." So now it is time for the coronation of the Queen in Black. As a red spiral glows on the cavern wall, Hela touches it, unlocking a hidden chamber. Inside stands a living pillar, symbiotic in nature, with a throne and Noel's waiting figure atop it. Hela transforms into a Nastron crow, flies to him, and resumes her godly form. Noel touches her forehead. His sigil burns into her flesh. The pillar wraps around her, enveloping her into a symbiotic armor. As she hears Noel's voice in her mind now, clear and commanding. "Rise, my Queen in Black. Rise so that all others may fall." Now fully empowered, Hela walks from the cavern, her new form regal and terrifying. She feels at home on Clintar, its terrain and power flowing through her. But then she sees something in the sky, a bright, fiery figure approaching, a burning bird with flaming wings. Could it be the phoenix that Odin once drunkenly sang about? Hela sits on Noel's throne, awaiting its arrival, not to welcome it, but to extinguish it. And now we move on to Jeff the Landshark as we return to Clintar, as Star-Lord pilots the Milano towards the planet, joking grimly about how close they came to dying the last time. And Rocket snaps back at the reminder and says, "You just had to say dead, didn't you, Quill?" The Guardians of the Galaxy are tense. They thought Noel was destroyed with the genetic bomb made from a dead Celestial's divine codex. Even Mantis couldn't sense him past the explosion. And while Quill and Rocket are bickering, Jeff the Landshark hops onto the ship's control panel, growling his disapproval of returning to the slime planet. Mantis, Jeff's BFF and translator, says that Jeff believes he should have swallowed Noel whole. And despite Jeff's usual cheerfulness, even he is unsettled by going back to the planet. And Mantis explains, Jeff's melodies have a calming psychological effect even in battle, as Jeff begins singing on top of the control panel. To which Rocket sarcastically tells Quill to hit play on his Walkman because it's go time. They land on Clintar and the Guardians disembark and immediately attack on symbiotes. They just started blasting, but Mantis clutches her head. "Noel, he's grown stronger. I can feel his darkness everywhere." And we come to find out, blasters don't really work on shape-shifting symbiotes. So then Jeff saves Star-Lord from an incoming symbiote with a tail swipe. But it's too late. The team is overwhelmed and bonded with symbiotes, transforming them into Noel's servants. The Guardians emerge in black suits with crimson spirals on their foreheads. They are fully under Noel's sway, and they are loving the power. Star-Lord says, "We look totally hardcore." Rocket says, "All we gotta do is blast heroes in Noel's name? Sweet deal." And Groot says, "We are Groot." Now Jeff is also getting bonded, but he fights back, aquarium style. He thinks of everyone he loves. Kate, Elsa, Gwen, Sai, Mantis, Soul, the Guardians of the Galaxy, your mother. But the mental resistance just is not enough. So he begins humming his song again. And to Jeff's surprise, his symbiote starts humming the tune as well. Jeff remembers what Venom once told him. Symbiotes have personalities. Noel may influence them, but he can't change who they are deep down. So Jeff stops resisting, fully bonding with his symbiote in the hope of creating a true partnership. His memories, surfing, dancing, the Hellfire Gala, hanging out with your mother, reach the symbiote, and it changes. The bond is now one of mutant trust and harmony, as Jeff emerges stronger than ever before, with a new suit, bigger grin, and teeth to spare. So Jeff begins to swim across the terrain and faces his possessed friends. Rocket panics. That little freak's gonna eat us! And before they attack Jeff, he begins to sing again. And it works. Star-Lord says, that song, Mantis, so beautiful. Rocket, actually ain't so bad. Groot, saying, I am Groot? And this is where Noel's influence on the Guardians begins to fade. The red spirals disappear. The Guardians are now free. Mantis runs over to Jeff and boops his nose. You did such a good job, my little friend. I knew you would. Rocket walks over and says, wait, we get to keep the costumes but not the evil? This is a way better deal. And Star-Lord says, maybe it's time to make you an official Guardian. What do you say, Jeff? Jeff, flipping in the air with pure joy, simply says, Myrrh. And for the final story, it is Venom. And we open up deep beneath the symbiote world of Clintar, as Eddie Brock is imprisoned, separated from his symbiote and trapped alone in a living cell. Above ground, things have gone from bad to cosmic doomsday. Noel has escaped. Hela, now his Queen in Black, has torn Eddie and his symbiote apart. Eddie is haunted by guilt. He knew Noel better than anyone and still failed to stop this. Now, the universe is on the brink, unless Eddie and his partner can act fast. They now see some flames approaching. A phoenix fragment nears. Eddie quickly realizes the symbiotes are scared of fire, and he suspects what's coming. Earlier, he saw the phoenix egg shattered during the war. Now, a shard must be nearby. He hopes the shard holds cosmic power that could help him fight back against Noel. But there's a problem. As Eddie reaches out telepathically to his symbiote in his own cell, the symbiote is terrified. Fire is in their DNA as a mortal fear. Going back to all black, the first symbiote forged in a celestial forge's flames. Eddie tries to convince it. A little fire now beats the eternal darkness under Noel. As the flame trail blazes down the corridor, the fire is not ordinary. It's Phoenix Flame, the fire of creation itself. And Eddie tries to escape his cell, but the living bars grow fangs, slicing into his hands. Despite the pain, he rips the bars open still, bleeding but undeterred. Eddie's running, he's sprinting, tracking down the psychic voice of his symbiote to another nearby cell. This one has a solid wall to prevent the symbiote from escaping. So Eddie uses the nearby frightened symbiotes as a makeshift glove, shielding his fist to punch right through the wall. The frightened symbiotes refuse to bond with Eddie, recognizing that he already belongs to somebody else. His own symbiote leaps to him joyfully. They're finally together again. They're on some "We Are Venom" hours. Together, they were Venom, but there was work to be done, and time was running out. Although they are now together again, the tunnels are collapsing and overheating from the battle on the surface. Eddie insists they need the Phoenix fragment to stand a chance. The symbiote protests again, but ultimately agrees. This could be their last stand. They race through the corridors as Phoenix fire burns hotter than ever. Eddie and the symbiote trying to endure. And right as Venom collapses from the heat, the flames part, revealing a fiery woman with red hair, a manifestation of the Phoenix Force, and she speaks telepathically, soothing both of them. She's not here to destroy them. She respects all life, including creatures born of darkness. She feels their purity of their bond, comparing it to her own with Jean Grey, as the Phoenix vows to protect them, calling their connection beautiful and rare. The Phoenix vanishes, and her place is in the Phoenix Shard. Eddie asks the symbiote one last time if it's ready. The symbiote agrees. As long as we're together, I'm ready for anything. Venom touches the shard and is engulfed in flame. But this time, the fire doesn't burn them from the outside. It ignites them from within like a star being born. Together, they become something new. Not just Venom, not just Phoenix, but a perfect union of darkness and light. With Phoenix power now surging through him, Venom feels stronger than ever, but also much wiser. They won't rush in recklessly to the fight again, like what they did with Hela. To defeat Null, they'll need a weapon that can match his might. That weapon? All black, the Necro Sword, Null's original creation, and Venom knows exactly where to find it. Alright, next up is the Flarkin Clintar gallery card, which is a mission report from Rocket to Shuri. And Rocket opens it up by catching up with Shuri on all the wild stuff since the last report. Vampires, androids, yes, a pet werewolf, yes, Rocket does have a werewolf. But the Princess of Wakanda really wants to know about one thing, Clintar. So Rocket does a little lore dump. Of course, Clintar, we all know this is a planet made entirely of symbiotes. At its core though, it's their creator, the ancient, evil, king in black, Null. Now Null was imprisoned by his own symbiotic offspring for millennia. Unfortunately, because of the time stream entanglement, it woke him up. Now, Null is spreading oblivion across the universe. However, Null was too weak to escape himself, so he had the idea to start corrupting other gods, with his goal being to devour their divine codex, which is basically their DNA of sorts, to power him up. And one of these victims is the Wakandan Panther goddess, Bast. And after this, that's when Shuri called the Guardians of the Galaxy to investigate on Clintar, which, stepping back out of the story real quick, back earlier in this timeline, this is why they're on Clintar, because Princess Shuri sent them there. So of course, as we know, let's hop back into the story, the Guardians crash, literally, on Clintar. And Rocket admits they immediately crashed the Milano into Clintar's sticky terrain. Hey, that's on us, right? But they turned it around fast. They ran into Venom, who was also poking around the planet. Together, they uncovered Null's next power grab, the Celestial Heart Bomb. Deep in the Agents of the Cosmos complex, they found a giant heart. It was the divine codex of a dead Celestial orbiting Clintar, and it was being twisted by Null into a new dark power source. Rocket and the rest of the Guardians used some Wakandan tech and his own tech in order to turn the codex into a living bomb, with their plan to feed that bomb to Null. And they thought it worked, but really they just got played like a fiddle because Null faked his death. And while the heroes turned their attention towards saving New York City from vampires or Krakoa against Ultron and his forces, Null went into hiding. He's now biding his time, waiting for another source of cosmic power. And now, the Phoenix is here, because the Milano scanners detect the Phoenix force in Clintar's skies. But Rocket doesn't like what that implies, because Rocket says, if the Phoenix really has shown up, terrible impression, I'm sorry, but let's run it back. Let me double down on it. If the Phoenix really has shown up, I've got a feeling we'll be seeing that freak's pasty face again. Of course, talking about Null. So the Guardians are heading back to Clintar, whether they like it or not, because the universe is at stake. And that, my rivals, is the story so far. Thinking about it immediately, this last gallery card we covered, the Clintar one, obviously is the first piece of story chronologically, happens before all the Hela stuff happens with Noel. In future timelines, of course, we're going to place that before the other stories when we clean it up a bit. But that's all I got so far. I do apologize. I haven't unlocked the rest of the gallery cards. I will cover all of the rest of the gallery cards I have yet to talk about in the next timeline. Haven't had too much time. Like I said at the start of this timeline, lots of changes coming to the channel, expanding the content a little bit. I've been diversifying my content, brother. I hope you understand. Hey, you know, Blade is coming out in a couple weeks. We still got some time to catch up on the story. Don't you worry about it. We'll be fine. Everything is going to be just fine. But I do like how we explain. I think I talked about in the last timeline where, you know, we're jumping around in the story, right? We're going to different places. We're taking on different threats. And it seems like time halts in the story. And then once we pick back up with it where we left off. So it seems we're not doing that for every story. I do like how they explain that Noel just went in the shadows for a bit during season 1 and 2. I like that a lot because it shows that, you know, who the devs, the lore masters, whoever they got cooking up this incredible story is a bit como dice, how do you say, flexible, right? They're very flexible with how they're telling the story, which you want. You don't want them to, you know, just have like a one single structure and not deviate from that whatsoever. I like how it's flexible because there's more freedom to do more things with the story. So I like that a lot. I like how in season 1, you know, Doctor Doom betrayed Dracula. So that tied up the vampire arc, right? We got the start of the story. We got the end of the story. We could pick back up with the plot points, but overall, that specific part of the story has been wrapped up. I like that. But here they're saying, hey, you know, season 0, you guys are fighting on Clintar and stuff because of Noel. Well, we stepped away for a little bit. We put that on the back burner, gave you a reason why it's on the back burner, and then now we're back full force. I do like that a lot. But that's going to be it for this timeline. Make sure you join us for the rest of the gallery cards being covered for the next timeline. And then, hey, just in a couple weeks, Blade is arriving. I am so interested on what the story pieces are going to explain there because Blade has literally been in the game since the beginning. He hasn't been playable. He hasn't been a very active part of the stories for the most part. He's been active in like 2, I believe, but he's been around. He's been involved. So I'm very curious to see how they explain everything to this point. But before I leave you guys off, please leave a like on the video. I would greatly appreciate it. Again, just a reminder, whether you're just listening now and you didn't listen to the intro where I announced it, or you simply forgot because this is a long video. This channel is rebranding July 27th. We're going under the name Fantastics moving forward. I wanted a shorter name, so don't be surprised. Come July 27th, you got a new channel name, you got a new profile picture. Don't be surprised on that one. Still same channel, same content, we're just adding on to it. Speaking of adding on to it, once that change occurs, we will also be dropping the first episode of our review series, where we're going to start out by rewatching the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. So July 27th, new channel name, the Iron Man 1 video is going to drop. Make sure you don't miss those. Go join our Discord server if you haven't already. I really need to shout out the Discord more. I will moving forward. I've come across people saying they're not aware of the Discord. I just leave the link in the description. I don't really mention it all too much anymore. I'll start mentioning it now. If you want to be part of the Discord, the link is in the description. With all of that said though, for the very last time, you're going to see this Blade Studios transition one final time. So enjoy it, savor it. But you also have to remember, even though I'm going to allow you to savor this one final time, you and I, we are rivals till the end. And it doesn't matter if you go in the comments and say that you like the new channel name more than the current one we got. I am never going to forget that.